It's time for the Unnamed Indie Comic Show. Special Hangout episode, Indie Comic Show. Special Hangout episode. It's time for the Unnamed 3 with Skip, Ash, and Knuckle. It's time for the Unnamed Indie Comic Show. Special Hangout episode, Indie Comic Show. Special Hangout episode. It's time for the Unnamed 3 with Skip, Ash, and Knuckle. It's time for the Unnamed Indie Comic Show. Special Hangout episode, Indie Comic Show. Special Hangout episode. It's time for the Unnamed 3 with Skip, Ash, and Knuckle. It's time for the Unnamed.
What's going on, everyone? You're watching Hash on Comics, special host of the Unnamed Indie Comic Show featuring Skip and Ash, but also a special guest today on the Hangout. We got Nalo. Good to see you guys. How you doing today, Skip?
Doing pretty good, as well as can be expected. Always excited to talk comics, of course, with you, Ash, and whenever Nalo gets to join us, that's always a special treat too. So I'm in good company, and what's up, everybody in the chat? Zach and Dave, happy to have y'all here as well.
Nalo, good to see you. You haven't been around in a while because I know you've been moving and got all the. That's got to be something that's not easy to do in the middle of the coof.
I've been moving and a grooving and a hipping and a hopping, so I'm ready to be here.
So are you all settled in, or are you still packing and shipping?
I'm all unpacked, but as you heard, I have some empty rooms, so I gotta do some shopping.
That can be fun. Getting yourself set up with a bunch of.
Yeah, I'm getting a big shelf coming in soon, so I'll have my Brubaker and East of West hardcovers on the.
Oh, very nice. Something to show off. I need to get a nice shelf for that. I don't have that. Good to see you guys in the chat, as Skip also said. We got a late start tonight, so that's on me. I always take the blame. Apologize. But for those who kept waiting, you're here now, and we're started now. I am drinking. In light of the how do I say the theme of the show being indie comics, I'm drinking a fine 2015 vintage of the Walking Dead wine. This is their Cabernet Sauvignon. Oh, actually, this is the 2016 Cabernet. So, with Pinky fully extended. What do you guys have for tonight's beverage?
I'll let you take this one, Nalo.
I got a hipster beer from a female-owned brewery.
Oh, hipster and female-owned. That's like 2 extra points.
Yeah.
Is it good?
No.
Yeah, actually, it's meant to introduce IPAs to people who drink White Claw. So I think they're hitting a good balance.
All right. What is White Claw?
Maybe that's not on the West Coast. It's like the like main alcoholic seltzer in at least on the East Coast, and then that's the one that made Budweiser and Corona all make their own seltzers too. So that's like
I think I have seen it now that you.
At
Yeah, I think I have seen it now that you mention it. All right.
Well, yeah, right before the pandemic hit, I was on White Claws pretty tough. So pretty
before
interesting.
the pandemic hit, that sounds like an after the pandemic kind of thing. You move on to
Well,
something
hey,
harder once the pandemic hit.
Now,
maybe.
I've only ever had one kind of the seltzer. I had the Corona ones. Are the White Claws any
I remember
different?
that
Are they
stream.
better? Do you know?
Oh, you said, are they better now?
Are they different? Are they better? Like, or if I've had one, I've had them all, type of thing. Because I wasn't a big fan of the Coronas.
I think if you had one, you had them all, except there's a few that are made of tea, and those are cool.
Oh, that's it.
That sounds
Seltzer
pretty
tea.
good.
Yeah, they're like sparkling alcoholic tea. There's a few brands.
All right. Very
Love my
good.
tea.
Speaking of tea, I know Skip is a big fan of tea. What are you drinking tonight, Skip?
I mean, not to let anybody down, I've got to stay consistent. So right now I'm drinking a plum, I think it's plum, ginger, and hibiscus tea right now.
That sounds really good.
It is, man. It's really good. It's a nice balance of sweet and tart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. It's doing it for me right now. So I got no complaint.
Are you drinking it hot or cold?
It's cold. I'm drinking it over ice.
Very nice.
Over ice. Yep. I probably should be drinking it hot because I've been doing a lot of chatting over the last few days, and I can feel my pipes shuddering. But I went with the ice this time around. Starting to warm up a little bit up here.
Yeah,
we had Northern California.
We had it hit 83 degrees the other day, and I was like, "What the f? What's going? It's not time. Slow your roll."
Yeah, it's starting early, man. Starting early, but yeah, all praise is due to Nalo. He is like the modern man right now. If you're looking for the picture of the modern man 2021, Nalo, send him a mugshot, baby.
Yeah. Well, in lieu of getting all the ladies in the chat excited, we'll put that on hiatus for a bit. We got Comics Quirks with Jimmy joining us in the chat. We'll probably be giving him a shout out later on because I have special foreknowledge of things. And Joe Corallo is here, who's been a welcome guest several times, and it's always been a pleasure. He says that they also make screwdrivers in a can. It's like no one should ever get screwdrivers in a can. Like it's literally putting vodka and orange juice together. Simple.
I would like to shout out to Joe that I also remember him drinking that on Perch's live stream. Yeah. So I have a very good memory of drink what.
I was like, that reminds me of like silly things that should not be, like microwave mac and cheese and things like it. Does it need to be easier? Does it? I guess maybe if you're on no, I can't, not even on a road trip, because you shouldn't be drinking and driving. So I can't think of times when, but everyone's got to do them.
Break in case of emergency. Screwdrivers are pretty good. I had a buddy that used to make a really killer screwdriver. And what he did is, instead of just mixing orange juice, he took the frozen orange juice concentrate and blended it on ice, but not water, just ice. So it came out as like a slushy type of thing. Then he mixed in the vodka and then added a little bit of vanilla extract. And it's like a daiquiri almost.
Yeah, just a little bit though. It was still just like a screwdriver, and it had the consistency of a daiquiri. But that little bit of the vanilla extract, it gave it that like orange creamsicle kind of flavor almost. Oh. These things were like dangerous. You're like, yeah, it was really good. And the concentrate of the orange juice meant you didn't have to dilute the orange juice, because if you add vodka to it, you're essentially diluting the orange juice, but you're adding concentrated orange, so it tasted strong, like the orange juice really overpowered the vodka, so you could make it a strong drink and not be like, whoa, that's really vodka like. And so that's why they were so dangerous. Anyways,
yeah, that sounds great. Love me some orange creamsicles.
Yeah, man. If you do, you would like these. Maybe I should try to remake one sometime, but I don't drink that much. Yeah. And so like you can only make it like by the pitcher. You can't just make yourself a single. on
You
that.
know what you might be able to get away with?
Hmm.
You might be able to. I mean, and this might be. I know they were over on the East Coast, but I think their numbers have kind of shrank a little bit. But you can probably get away with going to Jamba Juice, getting the Orange Dream machine, which is essentially an orange dreamsicle, and then just drinking enough to give yourself a little room for your shots. Pour that baby down in
Dude,
there.
that's a really good idea. Jamba Juices should make sure that they market themselves or move in right next to liquor stores. So you can get your Jamba Juice, walk out, go to the liquor store and buy like your little single vodka shot bottles, the little airport bottles. So you can get your Jamba Juice, just dump it in. There you go. Adult Jamba.
There you go. Ash, you might be on to something,
I
man.
know. Whew. All right. Well, we are here to talk about indie comics, Unnamed, because that's us. We're very creative. Let's see. I'm pretty sure you can at least get DDT in a can. Oh, nasty. Okay. What kind of comics have been on people's minds lately? And indie speaking, because it's the indie show. Anyone step up, take it first. We'll go with a guess. Nalo. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, Nalo. Let's go with it.
Just anything or the ones we pre-selected?
Whatever is coming to your mind right now in the world of indies that fits a indie comic hangout stream. You can bring up what we pre-selected. You can bring up something that just came to your mind just now, or you can make fun of Joe in the chat. All three things are acceptable.
I'm gonna get back to the Joe after. Yeah, I've been pretty excited in books I mentioned in the past. New issues recently just came out of The Recount, which is like a political, like conspiracy, high impact thriller book from Scout Comics, as well as Frank on the Farm, a kind of like World War I veteran psychological horror. Super excited to see how those wrap up or continue on. But recent issues just came out last week. And I got a bunch of like horror comics that are not too old, like a book called Mountainhead and Road of Bones. And yeah, this week I'll be picking up Decorum and Department of Truth, which are my top two favorite books. So long time coming.
Your top two favorite books are Department of Truth and
Coming
Decorum.
out right now, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Decorum is up there for me. We talked about this in the past. The Department of Truth wasn't particularly my bag, but a lot of people are really liking that book. So I'm glad that you're still enjoying it, and it's not, or that it's keeping the people that like it pleased with it. It's making me kind of wanting to try it again because admittedly I only read one issue, and sometimes that's premature judgment. You read like one thing. So wow, top two. That's really good. Skip, how about you, man? What are your top two books just currently, not necessarily all time, but just like you're excited about in the moment?
Definitely, Ice Cream Man is up there in an effort to not only have W. Maxwell Prince books, because the other one was going to be haha. Let's see, coming out. Dang, yeah, shout out to Decorum as well. That's a pretty solid one. Oh, that is ongoing. It's like it is tough because I've been reading so many back issues. I'm gonna say, I mean, obviously I was really excited about Chariot by Brian Edward Hill. So I'm gonna go with Chariot and Erratic. So I gave you three. We're gonna go with Ice Cream Man, Chariot, and Erratic.
All right, get a little bonus one in there. Chariot and Erratic and Ice Cream Man. Actually, I want to check all three because I say this all the time. When something can stand the test of time, like Ice Cream Man's not a flash in the pan. Sometimes something can come out and people can get all hyped on it and they lose themselves, and it sometimes gets elevated above what it really is. But I think Ice Cream Man has really been around long enough now to where all the hype is gone and it's just the quality showing through, I imagine, because people still talking really positively. And more important to me, no one ever says anything negative about the book. And that's usually one of my barometer gauges that I use, is not so much how much people are loving it, is about how few people are disliking it. Because you know, we all have things that we love. I mean, I love the movie Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's a terrible movie, you know, like it's on so many respects. But for me, I love it. But I would never use that as a good recommendation. But, you know, some movies, aka probably, you know, original Star Wars, you know, has few people that hate it. So, and I can say both those movies because they were both indie films. See how I drew a little correlation there. Yes, Star Wars was an indie film. Surprise, surprise, but a lot of people didn't know that. All right, I really want to check out. I really want to check out Erratic too, because you know me, I like capes. I'm very partial. That's my thing with comics. I like a lot of other genres too, but just in the realm of comics, I'm particular to capes. And so Erratic, being a cape book, has me going, oh, okay. I'm gonna have to say I have a new. And keep in mind, this is just in the moment, not all time. But as of right now, one of the top books I'm most excited about, I discovered a while back, but I just read it, was the new Jeff Lemire book, Snow Angels, which is a Comixology Unlimited. Have either of you guys had a chance to check this book out?
Is that the one where they live in a trench?
Yes, they do. They live in a trench.
Yeah, I read the first issue.
Did you read the full first issue or the preview? Because they released a preview issue.
The full issue. It ends like where they come back and there's like a villain standing there.
Okay. All right. What did you think about that first issue?
I really liked it a lot. I like Jeff Lemire, but haven't been keeping up with his Dark Horse stuff. So I haven't been reading him of late. So I was excited to learn about the book. I didn't see anyone talk about it. I just randomly saw it on Comixology.
Cool. So this is Comixology's version of trying to be kind of like the streaming services. They have like their originals and they release them periodically. I don't know if it's monthly or not. Okay, I don't know how this works. This is the first Comixology original I've dived into, just because Jeff Lemire has proven himself to be a writer that I really like. Skip, you like Jeff Lemire sometimes, right?
Yeah, I haven't read too much from Jeff Lemire that I didn't like. Just a few things that I didn't love.
Most notably, my favorite book, which we won't discuss. I'm just kidding. What is it about Jeff Lemire that you would say you like? Like, what draws you to his books that you find appealing?
You know, I just now realized this as you asked me this question. I feel like one, I have to say something. Every time I exhale, Jeff Lemire has a new book out. When does the guy sleep? Like, and I'm talking, and this guy, he does art too. So I just don't get, and I see him on Twitter. I'm like, how are you tweeting? Like, you must have a twin or you must have cloned yourself, unbeknownst to all of us. I think the interesting thing about Jeff Lemire, I think about like majority of the writers with big names that people really enjoy. So I'm thinking Donny Cates. I'm thinking dang it, and how I forgot to, like Scott Snyder. Thinking I don't know, just think about like the big names people enjoy. Chip Zdarsky, who not as big of a name, but you know, his
Tiny
reputation is
Onion.
growing. James Tiny Onion, yes, James Tynion, and all of them. It's funny, I feel like Jeff Lemire has a little bit like in him of all of what they do, but I feel like for the most part he does all of it almost just as good, if not better. So I feel like he's a really good mixture of like good, like interesting ideas, execution. I really like his like character work, and especially like the relationships between characters, interconnected it is. And like I'll even throw a little bit of Hickman in there. He's not so Hickman, but like world building.
Mm-hmm.
He puts enough of an emphasis on world building, but I feel like he's a really good balance of all those things. And that's easily what intrigues me, I would say, the most about him. And one of the other things is he doesn't always go for the most obvious characters or the most obvious story. So most of the time it is like a little bit of an interesting take, or maybe it's something that's not super uncommon, but the twist that he puts on it kind of puts you in a place where you're like, I just about every time on a Lemire book, I always go, oh, okay, you're doing it that way. Oh. So I would say that's kind of what I get from a lot of Lemire stuff. But the most thing, I'd say the strongest thing, the thing that pulls me in the most is how endearing his books kind of tend to be, and especially the relationships between the characters within the books.
So, what about you? Let me throw it over to you, Nalo. How much Lemire have you read?
Pretty large amount, I would say.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
I think what I'm drawn to him, in addition to what Skip said, especially appreciate the world building, but he seems to have a common thread of like a family always being at the center of things.
Oh, okay.
Especially in this like trench book. Sorry, I keep calling it the trench book. Snow Angels. It already shows this kind of family in this tough situation, a family tree, quite literally. Ascender and Descender is kind of this epic tale, but is kind of centered on family.
Mm-hmm.
And then also Gideon Falls is also about this family, and that also just kind of shows the range of all his work. You have, realistic setting ones, sci-fi, and then Gideon Falls is really like Twin Peaks and horror, which is one of my favorite books. But I think that they all have this kind of like endurance, adventure, and kind of centered on family. And I don't particularly, drawn to books about family, but I think he just does that so well. And all of his books kind of have that element, and kind of appreciate that.
So I'm still a bit of a Jeff Lemire novice. I have not read a ton of his work. He's never fully missed for me, but he oftentimes hasn't hit home runs for me. I read his Thanos work back in the day when I was trying to catch up to get to the Donny Cates Thanos Wins, which everyone was celebrating. And, the first 12 issues he wrote, and I thought, this is pretty decent. I feel like he's a solid writer. But it wasn't until I read some of his indie work that I was like, oh, I feel like this is more inspired. And that makes sense. Sometimes if you care about what you're writing, it's going to feel more passionate rather than someone gives you a job and says, do you want to write an Ant-Man book? And you're like, I guess. Does it pay money? And I don't necessarily know if that's exactly how comics work these days, but it feels like that sometimes. I noticed that he has quite a few different talents that what you guys said are amongst them. I also feel like he's very good at atmosphere. One of the things I noticed about Gideon Falls that I appreciated so much was the atmosphere. I didn't get into that series quite as much as some of his other stuff, only because I felt it wasn't offering as well as, it wasn't offering some of the things I like more as some of the other books do. But I really did appreciate the atmosphere, and it made me want to kind of stay in this world and see where it was going. I also really like what you said about the family aspect. I like the characters. I like when I say diverse characters, I don't mean diverse like racially or all the trivial ways that we've come to know, but like diverse in the feeling that they're very different characters and they are all unique and individual, and they're not just all speaking out of the same mouth. He's very, very good at that, in my opinion. And he has very interesting dialogue and relationship between them that's just fun to follow. It may not necessarily be the deepest thing. But in this book, Snow Angels, I feel, is somewhat of a marriage between what I love about books like Ascender and Descender, which have the world building and the character dynamic and all that and the family things, and then the strong atmospheric elements. And also, I guess he's good at horror. I mean, if you look at Gideon Falls at its roots as a horror book, and Snow Angels is a horror book, in my opinion, so far. I've only gotten 2 issues into this. There are more to come. I believe it's a 10-issue series. And this is available on Comixology Unlimited. So if you guys have Comixology Unlimited, you can just read these books. if you say, what is Comixology Unlimited, Ash? It's kind of like Netflix for comics. It's Comixology's system. You pay them $5.99 a month, and you can read as much as you want from their library that is part of the unlimited. Not every book is an unlimited book, so you're not going to read the newest issue of whatever that just came out. Although sometimes they do put some pretty recent stuff in there. Although all of the Comixology Originals stuff is, of course, on their day one. So you do get the newest issue of Snow Angels the day it comes out, or you can pay $2.99 an issue for it, which is still cheaper than normal comics. You don't get a physical comic, but you do, if you just care about reading, then that's not going to bother you probably, depending on your feelings about digital. I came into this just curious. I was like, I want to find one Comixology Unlimited book that I can love. I feel like they got all these books and none of them seem appealing to me, but I was like, I do like Jeff Lemire. Not the biggest fan of Jacques. And he's kind of a hit or miss artist. Everyone's going to have their own appealing, what they like as far as aesthetics and art. But I didn't necessarily mind his art in this book. It's got very much world building. The whole premise of this book is that there's a trench and there's a world. It's a snowy world. It's basically Hoth. It's just all snow all the time. It's harsh. And there's this trench and these people that live in the trench, and they have 3 rules, which I'm struggling to remember off the top of my head. But basically it's like, don't ever leave the trench. The trench is unending. I forget the exact rules, but basically don't ever leave the trench. This is one of the big ones. And you find out as you read the book, and these are going to be some minor spoilers, so maybe mute yourself for 60 seconds or 2 minutes if you don't want to, or as long as this image is on screen. I'm not going to spoil some big things, but there's a big menace that lives outside of the trench, according to lore. That's one of the reasons don't leave the trench, because basically Grendel lives out there. And it's, it's a primitive people, because all they have, the trench provides very basic, so they can fish, they do ice fishing, and they can hunt. There are these weird ice wolf things. They call them dogs, but whatever. Apparently there might be some bears and some other things too, but they live in there. The main character is this man you see on the cover here of issue 2, and he's got 2 daughters, and something nasty happens, and it goes quickly from, it's like a hardship story about life in an extreme environment, to, oh crap, monsters are real and they're slaughtering people and we don't have anything but this damn trench. And it's like, the atmosphere of this is nuts. And maybe it's because my bar was not set high. I wasn't coming in with hype or anything, but this is the first time in a long time that I've read a comic book where I was like, kind of, that white knuckle tension that it's hard to do in a comic book. I admit. And I found myself like, oh my God, what's going to happen? The end of the first issue starts it off, and then the second issue just builds on that. And Lemire creates a scenario that goes from like, oh, this is really bad, this is like hell on earth, but to like, oh, how could it's about as worse as you can. This is true horror. And this is the kind of horror I like. Not necessarily the kind of like, oh, a monster came out of the shadows and scared me. The kind of horror of like, you're screwed, right? The kind of horror, like one of my favorite horror movies all time is John Carpenter's The Thing, the 1980 film. Coincidentally, also in a snowy environment, because there was like no escape. There's a monster and you are in an area you can't run. And here, not only that, can you not run, but you're in a trench. It's straight. There's no like, hey, let's go and try to elude the monster. You basically are in a hallway. and it's ice and it's snow and the environment, everything is out to kill you. And you're a man with 2 little girls, the oldest of which is 12. it has the same the kind of tension it reminded me of is the kind I got when I originally watched Terminator back in the day, 1984. You know, with that robot just relentlessly chasing Sarah Connor type of thing. Anyways, that's my thought on this book. I recommend it to both of you guys. Skip, if you do like some Jeff Lemire, hopefully you like anything that I described, hopefully you'll find this entertaining. And for you guys in the audience, this is solid. Like, check it out. If you have Comixology Unlimited, it's a no-brainer. We talk about sometimes about cost versus reward. Do I really want to spend $6 on Batman? That all makes sense. But here, if you're a subscriber, boom, why not? Why wouldn't you watch it? Why wouldn't you read it? It's yeah. All right, that's all my thoughts on Snow Angels.
Nice.
So, any thoughts on my thoughts? Like, did I sway any of you guys or turn you off?
I'm sold. You sold me even more. I forgot about the series after reading issue 1 because I don't frequent Comixology as much as you maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go check out issue 2.
Nice. Sure. Okay. Well, Skip, do you have what kind of book what kind of books do you want to talk about that maybe are giving you some of the same kind of enthusiasm?
One recently that me and my good buddy, the comic book teddy bear, as Wes likes to call him, Jimmy, Mr. Quirks himself. We read through a book by W. Maxwell Prince called 1 Week in the Library, and it was really good. It got me really stoked and excited. Jimmy and I are going to do a more extensive breakdown and review of it, but if I was just to talk about it a little bit, it was creative, and it may sound not, that may not be like a high remark in a genre or in a medium where that is what is asked of you, is to be creative. But if that's the floor, I would say it is a good compliment, because we all read quite a few of these books, and it is more on the creative side than what you usually get from definitely the big two, or even indie publishers. I also enjoyed how meta it was. Me being a writer myself, like, I'm pretty hard on writers in a sense, especially if people are going to be a little self-indulgent. I'm of the opinion that you can make art for yourself, but if you're going to have an audience and build it and whatnot, art, as on a larger spectrum, it gives us an opportunity to convey certain emotions, expressions, and it is another way to communicate. And I feel like it's one of the most effective ways to communicate, especially like documenting human history and whatnot, going back to the caves and seeing markings and whatnot, and pictures, from that to the times of, Egypt and all of the pyramids and all those different kings and whatnot and all that stuff, pharaohs and all that from that time. We always have these things. So art has always played a big role in our communication and documenting where we're at. So it serves such a purpose for our society. And I really appreciate that W. Maxwell Prince kind of split the line very perfectly. He starts the story very much for the readers, easy way for you to dive into a world of stories. I like how creative it was, how he had the stories play a role, almost like we think of characters within stories. Well, the stories themselves were their own characters. So I liked how creative that was. And then how he kind of brought it back around to himself, and then his reasons on creating the book, and all of those things just really spoke to me. And I try to split, kind of myself as I'm reading things. It's hard for me to turn my brain off and not look at it from, an analytical standpoint. I'm always looking for things to, the whole quote unquote Picasso quote. Good artists copy, great artists steal. I'm always looking for ideas to steal. I'm not interested in carbon copying anyone, but I do want to see things that people have done well and say, okay, how can I learn from them and take it and put my own twist on it and make it true to who I am, and you know, and make it effective for the people that may read my stories or my songs too, because you know I've got that going for me. But he just did such a great job. And then on the other side, I am trying to look at it from a, you know, just a reader standpoint. I want to, you know, not just be clinical and just study these things, dissect them on the table, and you know, be an organ thief and just run away with the things that I feel like are beneficial to me in my writing. What does this do to me as a reader and inspire me, and speak to me and connect with me? He just does a really good job of balancing those two things. So I was very impressed by this little $9 book, this kind of short story in a way. He also split it in a very cool and sensible way, so very digestible chunks, because it is thick. I will say that although it's a short story, it's very concentrated. Ash was talking about concentrate, orange juice concentrate earlier. If you've ever had concentrate, you know how rich it is. This is a very rich story. So the way that he broke it down was very cool. And you get a lot out of, you know, a pamphlet that you don't think is going to really be too much. So I was very taken aback by the book. It was great.
Very nice. So Jimmy says he's a little bit perturbed at you. He says instead of doing the review with him, you're doing it with me. Now, Jimmy, this is actually meant to be a shout out for you and Skip for they're going to be doing a more in-depth analysis of the book on Jimmy's channel later. I don't have the exact time, but this is meant to sort of be a sneak preview. Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Skip just wanted to just kind of shout it out and give some attention to the book. Most people haven't even heard of this book even existing. So you guys, if this sounds interesting to you, you should go check it out, especially if you like Maxwell Prince, you like Ice Cream Man. There's a lot of Ice Cream Man fans out there, but I don't hear anyone talking about his other books. And sometimes that can be a weird barrier. Like sometimes people get on, like, for example, I see this all the time with Hickman. They're like, oh yeah, it's Hickman, man. I'm buying the X-Men. Hell yeah, Hickman's the greatest. And I'm like, cool, man, you read DECORUM? They're like, what's that? I'm like, they don't even know. And so this might be one of those books that, you know, look, you love Ice Cream Man, you like this writer, here's this thing out here that's kind of a hidden thing. I didn't know it existed until Skip was telling me he was doing a review with Jimmy about it. I was like, and it does have a weird name. It's not a name that's probably going to make it jump off the shelves as far as comics go. 1 week in the library, guy reading a book.
1 week in the library. You guys got to read 1 week in the library. I'm telling you, man, 1 week, just 1 week.
Sometimes, I mean, covers and titles sell things, right? You know, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the quality of the book. It just, sometimes you just see this and you're like, you don't know anything about it. You go, where's the Batman again? You know, like, but I'm starting to discover a little bit about Maxwell Prince. I read some Skip introduced me to, and that was interesting. And I read another book, which I think we'll be talking about a little bit, that I'm actually really enjoying, and it's very psychedelic. I didn't actually know this was Maxwell Prince. All I knew was one day in the week in the library, and I was like, it must be good if Skip's excited about it. I just never heard of it. Now I know it's W. Maxwell Prince. So you guys check that book out. Tahilam in the chat is saying that one of the books that he's read, the new indie book, is this book Shinokage. I have not heard of this myself. After the murder of one of his clan's 7 samurai, the young warrior Hachiro is called upon to finish his training. Bound by a sense of honor to his sister and community, he battles through the gauntlet filled with demons, beasts, and his past, while his village braces for war. Sounds pretty dope. I love samurai fiction. Yeah. Either of you guys heard of this? It's by a small studio. What's it? I don't even know what the studio is called. I lost it. You put it in the chat. Black Box Comics.
I like the way that sounds. Yeah, that is, I'm a sucker for samurai, just about anything. So, oh yeah, sounds awesome.
Nice. Indie Comic Jones is here. He says, "Hey Ash, I'm a two-timer with I Love Comics." Well, if you ain't two-timing with me, then you ain't two-timing with anyone. That didn't make any sense, but whatever. Let's see. Teal says, "What is Ash AOC from politics? No wonder we don't recognize her." Yes. How funny. Let's see. Joe says, "I like Youth. I edited Lost on Planet Earth, and I still got to check out the one Chip Zdarsky did there." Yeah, Youth did not look like my personal cup of tea. Did either of you guys check out that book or hear about it?
Yeah, actually, right below Joe's comment, I said that I have Youth borrowed in my queue. They talked about Frank Ocean in the solicits, and I am a huge Frank Ocean fan, one of my favorite artists in the last little while. So I was like, "Yep, you mentioned Frank Ocean," and the rest of it did seem interesting too. But that whole premise of the coming of age story, so to speak, and then they threw a little Frank Ocean in it, and I'm like, I'm gonna check it out. So yeah, I have it borrowed in my queue for Comixology.
Wow. If only I had as much pull to get Skip to check out things. I'm just kidding. Just being jealous.
I was about to say, I think I've read more of your books on our list than you've read of mine, my friend.
That's not. I am trying hard. I've been reading some Maxwell Prince, and that other guy I want to get the guy who did the pilots one.
Pilots.
Something pilots.
Homesick Pilot.
Oh,
Homesick
Pilots.
Yeah, I was gonna be reading that because I read Coffin Bound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The effort is there. I'm seeing it.
I'm trying, man.
You're working.
I think about 50% of the comics I'm reading lately is stuff that you're putting out there. But
picking up what I'm putting out is what I'm picking up.
Yeah. Let's see. Teelam says he did think about checking out the Youth trade paperback, but maybe later. And Kurt Pires, I'm sure I'm butchering the name, is also a cool dude. All right, so 1 week in the library. Do you know when you guys are when you're doing that episode, or is it still to be announced?
Well, actually tomorrow by the latest, so it should be up Wednesday or Thursday.
All right, so be sure to check out Jimmy and Skip talking about 1 week in the library. I'm gonna check it out. So I'm curious. Maxwell Prince is someone I've been sleeping on, and I don't want to sleep on good talent. So Nalo, it's time to bounce over to you, my friend.
All right.
What's currently you're just dying to talk about?
I'm dying to talk about a book called Fear Case, and I haven't read any reviews, but I also haven't heard anyone really talk about it other than
I'm hurt because I did a review.
Oh,
and you
really?
apparently didn't see it.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I like Matt.
Cool.
Matt Kent's one of my favorite writers in comics, so
I'm actually pretty new to him, so I'm pretty intrigued.
Well, tell us about Fear Case. I only read the first issue, but go ahead, talk about it.
Yeah, sure. So this is a kind of like a semi-historical realism case, which I kind of like, which is focused on a team at the Secret Service, which is essentially the oldest intelligence agency of the United States of America that was formed right around the time of Abraham Lincoln's death. And they still maintain the old cases, since they were formed, the FBI, the CIA, whoever has been formed. And so their oldest case is called the Fear Case, and they kind of give it to new recruits in their first year as kind of like a hazing ritual kind of thing. And you only have 1 year to work on the case because apparently if people go mad, they spend their life thinking about it. And they don't really know much about the case actually at all. Other than whoever receives it, they have to give it to the person that they hate, or it will go to the person that they love the most, or something to that effect. And along the way of this case, I don't really.
No,
kind of
isn't it? Hold on, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it? If you don't give the case away, then the person you love the most will die.
I think the person you love the most will then receive it and then subsequently die, or something to that effect.
Okay, continue on.
It's kind of confusing because I read issue 2 and 3, and like people keep ending up dead, but it's unclear. Like it also the case moves around, so it's actually one of the books that I'm reading like again and trying to figure it out.
Well, it kind of
And
encourages you to get rid of it, right? You have 3 days.
yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna wrap up my intro just in a second. But essentially, there are these two partners, and they're on like they have like 2 weeks left for their first year of this case, and then it's gonna move on to the next rookie. And one guy thinks they're gonna crack it, and it's some mythological thing that gets passed through the Indians to the Nazis to America, and the other guy thinks it's just some like drug money or something. And so it's this kind of haze of are they on the trail of this spooky fear case, or is it just like a hazing ritual from the Secret Service? And I kind of really sticking with me because of that. It's unclear, is there even a fear case? Is it just druggies killing these people and things to that effect? So I'm eager to read the rest.
And that's what the second issue kind of opens up. You said the whole like, is there actually a case, or is this actually just?
Yeah, the older partner, it seems, even though they're both new to the Secret Service, just thinks, oh, it's drug cartels, it's something, it's a trick, it's just whatever. And there's plenty of scary stuff in the world to worry about other than a case. And the other guy's starting to go crazy, about the case. And they get to a point where they see the case, but some random guy gets it and escapes. And they get stuck in traffic. So they lost their lead. They were pursuing a lead through issue 2 and 3. And now it's gone dry again completely. And the two partners are kind of like, all right, we'll wait and see because there's only a week left. But they kind of doubting each other and have two different positions. And as a reader, you have no idea. Is this a hazing ritual or is this a fear case?
Interesting. So having only read the first issue, my experience with the book is limited. I've kind of been trade waiting on this book. But I thought it was very interesting. I love that it kind of plays on some familiar tropes like X-Files-ish. The two partners are kind of like a Sculler and Moldy. You got one who's like the true believer, right? And you got the other one who's the skeptic, which works for this because you pointed out, like you're not sure if the case is even real, if this is just something that's fitting the description. I just like how Matt Kent puts together the characters, and it just kind of flows. And he's good at establishing, how do I say, not necessarily mystery, although this is a mystery, but in all of his books, it's about like wanting to know about more of what's going on. He makes it compelling.
I couldn't agree more. That's why I'm really eager to get the next issue because I'm left. It's really just so well done. So I guess I have a lot in store for me to read the rest of his work. But this and then also Berserker kind of is similar in that it ends on this cliffhanger, and I'm like, whoa, didn't see that coming. What's up with this main character? And here I kind of feel like I'm getting sucked into the mystery, and so it's doing what you really want a comic to do and kind of bleed into your thoughts. And so that book is sticking with me more than most I've been reading these days.
Snash Face says Sculler and Moldy. Oh my gosh, Ash is a genius. Did I say Sculler and Moldy? Mulder and Scully. I may have. I'm derpy. My only complaint about this book is these covers. Look at me as I toggle between cover 1 and cover 2. Come on. Can you splurge a little for the...
I'm a big fan of the covers, man. Minimalism.
I'm not necessarily knocking the covers individually, but just as a sequence, like, I don't know. I think this would work on a trade, maybe, but it's comics. It's a graphic. This isn't a novel. This feels like the cover was designed by a novelist, an editor or someone for, I don't know. It just, that they're all like this. It's all just a big black and what have you. That's my complaint. It's like, obviously other people love it. So, And again, it's trivial. It doesn't have anything to do with the book's quality itself. I'm just nitpicking. Like, it's because the book is good. I just want to be all it can be. You guys should check it out if anything you heard from Nalo sounds interesting to you. It's definitely solid. Matt Kent is aces. I like that you brought up Berserker. May have to talk about that book a little bit. It's only 4 issues, is that right?
I hope not. I think it is, though, unfortunately.
I thought I heard it was a 4-issue miniseries, but
I think it's 4 issues, but I wish it was 12.
Let's see. Dehelim says Matt Kent really captures the area that he covers in his titles. If it's a spy story, Black Badge. Wait, if it is spy story, Black Badge, Amazing Read, Scouts being used for spy missions. Oh, I didn't know that's what Black Badge is about. Now I'm more excited about it. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what that Tehilim kind of hints at, that, a cover is supposed to get you to buy the book to open it. And this is a very minimalistic cover. I guess I don't know much about it. The Black Badge is kind of the same way. But
I mean, just if for the sake of different strokes for different folks, the covers is why I specifically was drawn to this book, because of the style of cover.
Oh, fantastic!
That's how I found it.
Well, fantastic. I meant my criticism to be very trivial on purpose, because I don't really want to downgrade any books here. That's not the point of this particular show. So I was trying to find out something silly that's really pointless to criticize. Yeah, this wouldn't stop me from buying the book by any means. And let's see. Snatchface says, I didn't like the art, so I only picked up the first issue, he says. Well, what about the story, Snatchface? It didn't grab you? Snatchface also asks, Skip, are you gracing us with another bath tonight? I guess we'll find out after Skip gets out of the bath. Let's see. You asking when Ash is going to read Bad Weekend? I must have missed something. Oh, Jimmy earlier said, when are you going to read Bad Weekend? I think all 3 of us have read Bad Weekend, haven't we?
Yes.
I think he means on the Criminal Cast.
Oh, on the Criminal Cast. Probably not soon, because I read Bad Weekend on my my stream that I do, the Storytime stream. I read Bad Weekend on there, so that was semi-recent. But if the criminals on the cast all say that's what we want to read, then we'll make it happen. It's kind of a little bit of a democracy over there. So stay tuned for the next book we're going to do there. I think we've reached a consensus on what the next book is going to be. As a matter of fact, I think we can probably announce it.
Cruel Summer, baby. It's going to be a tough one.
Cruel Summer. So if you guys want to get ahead of the game before we do the actual cast, it's the Criminal 2019 series. So if you have the floppies, it's the Criminal 2019, of which Bad Weekend is issues 2 and 3. Issue 4 is not. So issues 2, 3, and 4 are not reprinted in the Cruel Summer trade. So if you read Cruel Summer, it's going to be 1, then 5 through 12. And that's what we're going to be covering. But if you're just interested in the whole entirety of 2019's run, you read in the floppies, then 2 and 3 would equate to being Bad Weekend. And issue 4 is not currently lumped into anything else, except I guess maybe Skip told me it was part of the volume 3 of the Criminal Premium hardcover.
Yep.
So that will be. Go ahead.
Oh no, just to answer a quick question that some people may have, and I know you did. Yes, the Criminal 10th Anniversary Edition issue floppy and the Criminal Special Edition floppy are both included in Volume 3 of the Criminal Deluxe Edition hardcover.
Dope. Very good to know, because I was going to have to track those down individually, and now I don't need to because I have the Criminal Volume 3 hardcover, which is beautiful. Let's see. So apparently Skip is trying to plan a jacuzzi stream. That would be very interesting. So hopefully we answered your question, Jimmy, about Bad Weekend. I definitely recommend it, guys. If you haven't read Bad Weekend, it's a really cool criminal story that takes place in San Diego Comic-Con. It's like reading Pulp Fiction meets comic creators. It's wild. It's great.
It's
really
meta.
What's that?
It's meta.
Oh yeah, it's very meta. Good point. There's a lot of references in there that are like, this sounds like it probably really happened, but he had to change the names and some of the details of the events. Not everything. I don't think everything is that way, but I feel like there's some references in the book that are like, oh, I feel like this might be real. Like maybe this guy did get beat up at San Diego Comic. I don't know. What do you guys? Did you get a feeling of that maybe?
I mean, life inspires fiction.
Yeah. All right. Well, Skip's in the jacuzzi. He's adjusting the
okay,
bubbles.
he probably fell into that hot tub time machine.
Yeah.
He's probably at the con right now.
We could all be so lucky to stream from the jacuzzi. All right. So let's see. Snatchface says jacuzzi stream nice. Got to wear masks though. Oh boy. All right. Indie Comic Jones says, I agree with you. I didn't care about the art or dialogue. You didn't like the dialogue, huh? That's interesting. I think Kent is what he excels at is scripting. It is one thing I could see a lot of people being turned off with Matt Kemp books because a lot of them are very, very indie and they don't have the budget necessarily for a top tier artist. So your miles are going to vary based on the art that you see. But his writing is always, I haven't read a single Matt Kemp book where I was like, oh, what the hell am I reading here? And
I will say in the Fear case, I have trouble telling the two partners apart as a terms of a critique.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the story, it's seeping into my mind. So, I'm giving it a discount that the art is a bit muddled.
Yeah, they should have done something to delineate the two. If the artist wasn't, like the old school, like cartoons, it's the reason why, like if you watch Scooby-Doo, the characters all look extremely
one guy
different.
Needs to have like a different hairstyle. Like they have the exact same style, and they're both dressed as cops. Like I don't know.
They're both men in black. They're both the same ethnic
both in suits,
persuasion.
both same skin color, both, and I'm like, the art's not that detailed.
Yeah. Let's see. Marania's referring to some mainstream comics we don't talk about on the Indie Comic Show, Marania, but welcome. Glad you could make the show. Snatchface wants to know what are some other comics everyone is reading. And I want to know that too. You guys put out in the chats what comics are really floating your boat. Even if it's comics we've already mentioned. All that does is just reaffirms the quality of those books. Indie Comic Jones says, I only bought the first issue. It was tough telling the two main detectives. So yeah, he's seconding what you said there, Nalo. I'm looking forward to finishing it up in the trade. I have mentioned many times I have very difficult time buying floppies on miniseries because I just feel if you're just gonna, and I love floppies, so that's just me.
Can I ask Ash, are you buying any DC floppies anymore, or are you just getting a very limited amount of floppies?
No, I dropped all DC. I was getting the Harley. I still got the Harley Quinn book because it's the White Knight stuff, and I love Sean Gordon Murphy, but that's done. So, nope, no DCs. Only indies and a couple Marvels. Let's see. As for independent books, Ash needs to go back to reading Invincible on his Storytime series. That or Middle West. Wow. Did either of you guys read Invincible and or Middle West?
Or the first trade of Invincible.
And
I have
by the
not
tone of
read-
your
I-
voice, Skip, I'm sounding like it didn't resonate with you.
No, I didn't. That's why I didn't read any more of it.
Gotcha. What about Middle West? Did you have a chance to check that one out by chance?
Oh, no, I haven't checked out Middle West yet.
That might be something you want to check out. It's written by Scotty Young. He doesn't do the art for some reason, which seems to me like that's Scotty Young's strong suit. But he gets an artist that's similar in some ways, not a clone, but it has sort of that storybook style. And the book is very much like a storybook, like almost like a Wizard of Oz fairy tale type thing. And I found it very charming, interesting, very indie, very much recommended. That might be something up your alley.
I'm not a big fantasy person.
It's fantasy, not like fantasy. It's fantasy like weird, like
Like Scotty Young weird?
No, like Coffin Bound. Like
Coffin Bound.
Like it's like a weird
do they say
surreal.
betwixt?
It's like a surreal version of our world,
Mm-hmm.
where it's not. Because I know what you mean. Like I was not a fan of Scotty Young's "I Hate Fairies," for example. Like I thought that was just...
Fairyland. Yeah,
Fairyland.
I'm not a big Scotty Young fan. Like I don't even really like Scotty Young's art.
Oh,
So,
Yeah, I don't know why he gets so many covers, like variants.
yeah, I was just about
I
to
don't
say
know
the same
what else-
thing. I don't know why people like Scotty Young so much. But I will say this: you said the surreal version of our world. That might be the one redeeming quality, and it's definitely enough for me to read issue number 1. I could do issue number 1 based off of that. Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, and talk to Jimmy about it too. I think Jimmy really loved that series quite a bit. It's very much a story about a father or a son and a father who's at best overbearing, at worst maybe abusive, and having to deal with this world, and then some of the things, he kind of runs away. It definitely is fantasy, but I would also consider a book, say, like Coffin Bound fantasy. So I know certain kinds of fantasy are in your wheelhouse. I don't know if this one particularly will be, but I found it to be kind of charming, but also meaningful. Like I thought it had something to say about family relationships and dealing with, a child dealing with parents and trying to run away from your problems, and and it's got some interesting scenarios. You got to run off and join the circus type of thing. Kind of reminded me of things like stories like Pinocchio and Dumbo and not Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz. Little elements of all of that kind of, but also not being childish. It's not a childish book in any way. Well, anyways,
Interesting.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to put out a restraining order on Scotty Young. He's like telling my life story. He's put my business out there like that. What's going on with that?
maybe might be something you resonate to. Yeah, it's I like it. Nala, did you say you read that book?
No, I haven't read Invincibles or Middle West.
Okay. So obviously it resonated with Marania. She liked both of those. I got to say,
Nice.
The Middle West was pretty popular. I got pretty popular response when I read. I think I did the first 6 or 7 issues on my stream, and I'm pretty sure everyone was like, "Yeah, this is good." So not that necessarily means anything, but now Invincible. Since the topic of Invincible is out, we should at least broach the subject. As far as everyone knows, there's a famous book out there called Invincible by Robert Kirkman, who wrote Walking Dead, Dirt. And we do, on the normal indie show, we talk about another Robert Kirkman book, which is Firepower, which we're both enamored with and we love.
Yes.
Invincible is a different kind of book. It's one of Kirkman's earlier works, but it's been adapted into a TV show, and I think that's why it's now in a lot of people's headspace, because Amazon has made an original series out of it. This is obviously a book that didn't win Skip over. It's not a book that, it's probably my least favorite of the Kirkman books that I've read, but I've only read the first trade. A lot of people tell me, oh, you got to read, it gets way better later down the road. That may be the case. That may be. But I can only go with my own personal experience. And so we just, I watched the show. Skip didn't really want to watch the show. I did watch it. Suffice it to say, I'm not blown away by it. And this show is really about celebrating the things we love about it. And so we're not really going to talk about the TV show because of that. Not because I think the TV show is bad. It's not. I'm going to keep watching it, but it's not something that I can sit here and just praise. It's got problems. And the one thing that I will say, if anyone's curious about it, obviously go check it out for yourself. Be your own best judge. But I will say, this is not for kids. This show, when you watch it, it looks and feels kind of like Young Justice, like you're watching the DC animated show or something, and then it's goes into R-rated territory. You're just like, whoa. So, and it doesn't do it right away. So if you are a person who's got young kids with you and you're like, hey, this would be fun bonding experience to watch with my kid, watch it first. Watch the first 3 episodes first. And if you think that is for your kids, then you're the parent. But I just wanted to give you a warning first. This is for adults, in my opinion. All right. Moving along. Let's see. We talked about Fear Case, talking about Snow Angels. We talked a lot of Maxwell Prince. I think Maxwell Prince might be Skip's hottest creator at the moment. He's got a lot of books that I hear, a lot of behind the scenes we talk a lot about. Skip, why don't you tell us about another book that have got some enthusiasm over called Electric Sublime?
Yeah, the Electric Sublime, really, really cool, really interesting concept. I won't say that I'm like super studied when it comes to, art and like that whole scene and paintings and all that stuff. I have pretty much, information that I have from school on like, that whole realm. But as an artist myself, like I have an appreciation for, and I guess my own take on it. I grew up like in the hip hop scene and hip hop community. So of course the 4 elements of hip hop were breakdancing, MCing, DJing, and graffiti. So like graffiti art and street art was something that had really resonated with me. And it was interesting to see like how it grow and turn into what it is today. If I throw out the name Banksy, probably quite a few people are familiar with that name. If I just throw out the biggest name of the big fish, but something like, so, that type of thing kind of gets to me. And then I'm also like a naturally kind of a rebellious person, counterculture type person. So when I found out that W. Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo had done a book together before Ice Cream Man, naturally it piqued my interest. It was on IDW Publishing and it was called The Electric Sublime. And I just saw the little tag phrase, like, it said, art is whatever you can get away with it. Or whatever you can get away with, destroy it all. Fun side note, I actually live on the street of an artist, Picasso. So, there's a lot of relevant things and tones in there, but I was like, okay, well, that's enough for me to check it out. W. Maxwell Prince, Martin Morazzo, indie book, jumped in, and it's cool. It's very interesting. Of course, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's only 4 issues, so it is a shorter type story, but essentially like kind of similar to the twist that he put on 1 Week in the Library. like something is happening to the art and the world. And we're talking about like the really big pieces, Mona Lisa, and tons of sculptures, but most of it is painting. But they're changing, things are happening, and it's making people sick. The mediums, like I said, that we communicate through and express so much through and have such great appreciations for and are in awe of, and kind of take us off into a different world. Like they're changing, something's happening to them, and it's not as if someone is going and defacing them, but they are changing. And so there's results of that, and a lot of people are getting sick, people are even dying. And there comes this detective. She's on this bureau that has to do with art, and I forget the breakdown. It's like the BAI. But she's on this art bureau, and they're essentially like a form of law enforcement, so to speak. So she goes, she starts checking it out, she's putting it together and seeing the reoccurring themes, and she gets referred to this person who is basically in a psych ward. And they're like, look, if anybody is going to know about like this type of art and on this level, and even going beyond just our world, possibly into other realms, it's going to be this one person. She goes and she talks to him, and tries to get his help. And from there, they're kind of off on this journey of trying to find out who is doing this, how are they doing it, why are they doing it, and obviously what can they do to stop it, so that way all these gruesome murders and all of this illness and sickness can cease and possibly even be remedied. So it was very, very, very interesting, very, again, creative. W. Maxwell Prince's work he always, I feel like, has something to take you, to like take you into the elevation of the atmosphere, and then he has something that's like cement shoes to pull you back down and have gravity tug on you as you read a story. And he did it yet again with this book.
Very nice. Very nice. So in the chat, thank you for that, Skip, by the way.
Got it.
We have Indie Comics Jones says Vietnam Horror and Rabid World are new, and I thought they were both good. So here is Rabid World. For those of you that might be interested, there's a little synopsis up there at the top. It's a $3.99 comic. I don't really know anything about it. It's from Scout Comics. Have either of you guys checked this out by chance?
Yeah, I got the Ash Can a few months ago and just read issue 1. Super exciting first issue, but remains to be seen if there'll be anything new they have to bring to the zombie, table, or if it'll just be a generic zombie tale. But it was off to a great start.
All right, and Skip, I take it you haven't seen that one.
I have not. I'm familiar with some books in the Scout Comics line. I was actually digging through
like last week.
Okay, well, that would make even more sense while I'm not familiar with it. I was actually funny. Nalo chimed in. I was actually digging through some long boxes today in a local comic shop trying to find him a Mountain Head #4, which I was unsuccessful. But in the process of doing so, I ended up looking through some Scout Comics books. But apparently, I wasn't over on the new rack, so I wouldn't have seen it.
So another book is Vietnam Horror. Another book I'm not necessarily familiar with, but looks like mixing horror and Vietnam, which one would argue was a horror of its own.
That book is, I would also recommend. It's from Behemoth, which is an up-and-coming indie publisher. Probably about in January, I was looking through all the previews and noticing they were a little thinner, at least back in January, and I was like, or maybe that's from Mad Cave, I think. Oh, sorry, Mad Cave, not me, or Behemoth. I don't know. There's two publishers, Mad Cave and Behemoth, and I was like, anyone heard of them? They have some books, and now I noticed they have a pretty huge following, whichever one it is. And Nottingham and Vietnam horror one both have like a lot of people tweeting about them. I saw.
So Nottingham is one that I have heard of. So make it by that if you will. It's tough for some of these small presses to reach just even people hearing about them. That's a battle that they got to face these days. So this part of why we do the show, guys, is to help spread the word about some of these small time books. Just because you're smaller doesn't mean you're lesser. But for a lot of people, they just, they go into the comic book store, they want their Batman, their Spider-Man, their X-Men or whatever, and they've never dived deeper into other things. And for some reason, that's understandable, right? Because it's easier to bite on something that you're familiar with. It's much, if you think about, like, I always think of things in terms of eating, but if you've had mac and cheese and someone says, hey, you want to try this mac and cheese? You go, well, I've never had that one, but I like it normally, so that sounds fine. Or like pizza. But if someone says, hey, you want to try these monkey brains? You're like, it seems a little bit like, I don't know. I have no idea. I've never tried it. They could be great. It could be terrible. I think I'll just stick with the mac and cheese. But you never know. I'm not trying to say that Nottingham was a bad analogy. But
I have a clarification. So Vietnam Horror is from Behemoth Comics, and Nottingham is from Mad Cave Studios. And both of those publishers are giving me Big Scout comic vibes from a year ago, where I'm just starting to see people, tweet about them and get excited about them, and it seems like they may be worth checking out.
Nice.
Cool. So obviously Nottingham is a different take on the Robin Hood mythos, which is a cool mythos for me. So check that out. And guys, keep spreading the word. I love seeing you guys talk about what you're enthused about, because I think enthusiasm is infectious. And sometimes some of the reasons I'm reading some of the books that I'm reading today is, I'm reading Firepower is a perfect example because of enthusiasm of a couple people, one of which is in the chat, Jimmy. He was one of the people who's so enthusiastic about that book that I was like, all right, I'm going to try it. And now it's one of my top books. So sometimes it's just getting to try something, just to open that page. You're not going to love everything. But with 500 comic books out every month, there's way too much. Like, it's just overwhelming. You're just like, I'm just going to stick with what I like. So share that a lot. Snatchface says, Nottingham was a lot darker than I thought it would be. I like dark. I'm a sucker for dark stuff. Let's see. Snatchface says, Skip is such a good speaker. He should be a writer.
That was very, very kind. Very, very kind. Thank you so much. Well, I am. I write. Most of my stuff is self-published, but music, poems, stories, shorts, reviews. I've been, oh my gosh, writing for a long time, but focusing more on stories and stuff these days. Of course, me and Big Jimmy, Comics Quirks, got a book that we're working on right now, but I got some other things that I'm working on too. So I may only be self-published for just a little while longer. We'll see.
Now, the kicker will be, will Skip remember us little guys when he makes it big? That is yet to be determined.
Absolutely not. I'm forgetting all y'all. Definitely, if you ever call me, I'm blocking your number, see me in public, acting like I didn't know you. You say, Skip. I say, who? Do I know you? Excuse me, sir. My limousine is awaiting.
Speaking of published, we do have a published author in the chats with us, Joe Corallo, who I have been honored to have guest on my show a couple times. Thank you, Joe, for doing that. He has a series of books out there that he is promoting that I have not yet read. I'm going to look out for these. Joe, when are these hitting stores? Well, I guess I could look here. It has a release date. You get, go to your store and order yourself a copy. Tell them you want this book. It's Beckstar, and then you can also say, "I know the author." Have you guys been able to order this book?
No, but thank you for reminding me, because today I wasn't at my normal LCS. I went to one that I don't go to often because I had to do some business out of town. But Absolutely. Now, like that reminder, I will call tomorrow and let both of my two shops that where I have at, well, three shops where I have pull boxes at, let them know. Beckstar, Beckstar, Beckstar. Man, I'm loving those covers too, man. That's exciting.
Yeah. I'm very curious about this. It says Beckstar is a star-hopping mercenary gone full-time gambler light years away from Earth. Leaving her old life behind with the help of her magical luck dagger and her fan-turned-regret-filled friend Sally Sulin, Beckstar ekes out a living on the nefarious Shadow Syndicate's radar. But when a mysterious girl appears with grim news and an urgent quest where the fate of the universe hangs in the balance, Beckstar has no choice but to join. And regret it immediately. Sounds like a pretty good pitch there. Did you write that pitch there, Joe? We'll find out. May 5th is
Sounds
issue
like a
number
Joe
1,
pitch.
he says. Okay. So you guys got plenty of time to go to your store and say, pull me the first issue of Beckstar. I want to check it out. May 5th. So you guys can remember this because it's the day after Disney will keep hounding you with their personally made holiday, May the 4th. So when you hear Disney going, May the 4th be with you, remember, tomorrow is Beckstar. So there you go. That's how you can remember it. See how I did? See what I did there, Joe? I created an association that they can't forget now. Informational reality is here. It says, hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome, my friend. We're talking about indie comics as a hangout. So please shoot out any indie comic stuff that you want to talk about or want us to talk about. And we will be happy to try and oblige. Let's see. Snatchface says it's Revenge of the 5th. That's right. Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, that's another good way. Cinco de Mayo. The problem is by the time Cinco de Mayo hits and then you start drinking, you might forget. So I was maybe trying to put it a day early.
Sweeney Boo, cover artist Sweeney Boo. That's an automatic buy. It's an automatic buy.
Serious. How can you pass up Sweeney Boo?
Sweeney Boo.
All right. So while we're waiting for the chat to type in something and pretend that they like about indie comics, I know you guys all love indie comics. Let's get on to the next thing about bigs. It seems to me that once upon a time there was a popular sci-fi movie called Blade Runner, and then it kind of stayed around as like a cult film for a long time, and then they made a film a couple years back, sequel, Blade Runner 2049, that was, in my opinion, even better than the original Blade Runner. But it didn't do too well in the box office because reasons. Because just because something's good doesn't mean people buy it. That's the horrible truth about media and art. Sometimes some of the best stuff just goes unpurchased. This is the way it is. Sucks. But this comic company, Titan Comics, has been doing a comic book series. We did a episode on this of one of the indie comic shows of the 2019 series. We did all 12 issues. We talked about it. I was very excited about that series because it was written by the screenwriter of Blade Runner 2049. So it wasn't like just some Yahoo that they just hired to write a spin-off book. It felt like it had some authenticity of being part of, this is like a true sequel type movie. And it was really good. I really appreciated what they did. The writing I thought was fantastic. The character was someone that I could really get behind. Not just because her name is Ash, but that's kind of cool too. But because they managed to create a new Blade Runner that was different from Deckard and Jay. And she wasn't just like, we're going to make a female Blade Runner because it didn't feel like that at all. She felt like a cool Blade Runner, and she had her own story to tell. And I think that's important. I didn't want to see any knockoffs. I didn't want to see female Deckard Cain. And they did that. And they created a new story that seemed fitting with the whole replicants and the Tyrell Corporation and all the lore, but felt uniquely its own as well. Needless to say, I was extremely impressed by Blade Runner 2019, a book that I was absolutely avoiding like the plague until Thinking Critical, the channel you guys I'm sure have all heard of. Wes over there was hyping it up all the time, saying this is one of the best indie books out there. And I was like, I'm not sure I believe that. And I finally was like, okay, fine, I'll try it out. And I was wrong. Like, not that I was wrong, but my suspicion, you guys get the point. So I finally was able to see that for myself, and I had to admit that this is great, and I became a fan. That series ended after 12 issues, but it's continued on, but it's 10 years in the future now. And so normally I'm not big on the whole reboot thing, starting the numbering over. But I guess when they called themselves Blade Runner 2019 and they kept going forward in years, that was kind of bound to happen. So now it's 10 years later, 2029, same character and new stories. So this is where this started off. Nalo, have you had a chance to read the Blade Runner books at all?
Yes, so I also, I think, was potentially turned on to them by Wes. I read Blade Runner 2019, and I was trying to get those Sid Meier covers.
Me too. Sid Mead.
The future artist. Sid Mead. Yeah, sorry. That's what I meant.
Sid Meier's somebody too. I'm not...
Probably somebody. But I was a little bit, and I did get the free comic book day Blade Runner, but I was a little bit confused. I saw there's like 2 different series now, and I didn't know how they connected.
All right, so that's a very good question. I too was confused. So there are actually 3 series: Blade Runner 2019, Blade Runner 2029, and then the new series Blade Runner Origins. They're all part of the Blade Runner universe. The 2019 and 2029 feature the main character Ash, who you see here on the cover.
Which is you, right?
Which is
You're
me.
like,
yes, this is my biography.
Like Keanu is in Berserker, Ash is in Blade
Runner. So yeah, it's I don't know why they chose Peach Momoko. You're either a fan of Peach Momoko or you aren't. So it's just 10 years in the future. So think of this as volume 2 of Blade Runner 2019. It just picks up not exactly where the last one left off, but it's a sequel to it. Blade Runner Origins is in the past. It takes place in 2009, I want to say. And it's basically giving you the story of the origins of the whole replicant outbreak, like, and the problems and the whole thing that led to the reason that we had Blade Runners in the first place. At least as far as I can suspect. I've only been able to read the first issue of Blade Runner Origins so far. But for anyone that's confused about those, you can pick up Origins completely on its own because it's a prequel. 2029, I would recommend reading 2019 first if you can go out and find it, get the trades. You don't have to. It tells its story.
What else does Titan out?
What's that?
What else? What other comics does Titan produce? I only know them from Blade Runner.
Well, that's a good question. I'll look that up. But Skip, anything you want to say about 2029?
No, I haven't read 2029 yet at all. Of course, you and I reviewed and read through 2019, and that was a heck of a ride. Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm a huge cyberpunk fan.
Nice.
My favorite version of the movie, of course, is not the director's cut. There's one after that. Basically, the one where it doesn't have like the old school like noir monologue type stuff. Like I love that version of the movie, and that's the one that I own. Wes had mentioned to me too about Blade Runner because he and I had talked about it before, and I put it off until it came back around that Ash was talking about it as well, and then I was like, okay, cool, and then we ended up reviewing it. 2029, I wasn't so excited to jump into, and it wasn't. I mean, obviously we reviewed it on the show, so I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. The final cut. Thank you, Joe. It was the final cut. Blade Runner, the final cut. But so I wasn't interested in like continuing the story with Ash, Ash, the character in the book. Man, we really have to like specify that, don't we, as we're talking about this? But
you can call her
and
Anna.
oh well, that's right, Anna. Okay, so we'll say Anna. So Anna in the book, but in the story there was time jumps, so I felt like I had enough of her story for the time, and I knew that that the Blade Runner Origins was coming out, and I was like, oh, that really interests me. Where did Blade Runner start? I'm a big like person, like how did things start, and then how did they change? So that was what I was waiting for. A buddy of mine, Brad Simpson, who's a colorist, he had done the colors for a variant cover for Origins. So I was like, that's the one that I'm gonna wait for. Don't know how I missed it. There was some like a snafu with the release dates and things lining up on a League of Comic Geeks, Ash? Is that what the name of the site is that we use?
League of Comic Geeks is yeah.
Okay. So that's, like I had known about that website before. I only used to check it just to see what books were coming out. And then Ash had taught me that you can like basically make your pull list and stuff in there. So I went and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put it on my pull. There was a date snafu. So anyway, come back around to like, I guess last week, number 2 was already out. And luckily one of the shops I go to still had a number 1. Grab both of those. And I am very much enjoying and liking what they're doing in Blade Runner Origins very, very much.
Very cool. Okay, well, we'll get to Origins here in a second. And Nalo, you said you didn't get a chance to read 2029, it sounds like.
2029, the last thing I read was at the end of last summer, New Comic Book Day, Blade Runner.
Okay. So 2029 is one of the big things to note about 2029 is it's got a new writer. And that was sort of a turnoff for me. The reason I kind of jumped in on 2019 was because, the guy who wrote the movies wrote the comics. I'm not a big spin-off. Like, I'm not a big, like, movie tie-in type of guy. You'll notice the comics that I talk about all the time. I don't even read Star Wars is my number 1 thing ever. And you have to, like, man, you got to put a gun to my head to read a Star Wars book. And it has nothing to do with Disney. Like, even before that, I just don't like lesser incarnations, if I can sound snobbier, like I don't want just like, some Joe they hired to write a comic book. I'm like, the reason I love Star Wars is because I view it as excellence. I don't want to see it done just sort of like, they just hired some dude to do his own story. Like, I'm like, no thanks. You go ahead, you do that. People that want to consume it, that's fine.
Ash, I've heard you disparage the schmoes and the yahoos tonight, and I won't stand for it.
What are you?
This aggression will not.
Some sort of anti-Google?
What kind of elitist are you? You're only here for excellence, and you're not going to read anything by some yahoo?
Or schmo.
Or schmo.
I identify as a schmo, Ash.
Yeah,
I personally am a little offended.
Well, I identify as a schmo too, but I'm just self-deprecating.
Aggression against the yahoos.
Eric Breen has joined us with his presence. Welcome, Eric. Good to see you. He says he's here for you, Nalo. So.
Oh wow.
Nalo has got us an extra viewer.
I'm just another yahoo.
So we had the question about what does Titan Comics do as a non-expert of Titan Comics. I went to their site here so we can see. Looks like they're famous for doing movie tie-in stuff. They got Doctor Who comics, Blade Runner comics. Looks like you can get Minions comics. Life is Strange comics. So seems they're very much kind of like IDW in this way. They're very much about licenses. Which is not necessarily a bad thing. I just have my personal, look, if you like the video game Horizon Zero Dawn, you can get a comic about that. So I've actually
shout out
I've heard really good things about this V.E. Schwab
Mm.
thing, Shades of Magic. I don't know anything else really about it other than I've just heard good things. But so yeah, there you go. That's Titan Comics, who they are, and some of those things might appeal to you. 2019 is legit good though. Like, good is good. And like I said, I just normally avoid it because 95% of the time, the stuff that's based on a license is just, bleh, it's like, oh, hire some dude to go do it, and I'm not. That's cool. Like, someone else can have it. So, but that's, I guess I'm trying to say is that Blade Runner 2019 excels beyond that, and it's legit. Even if it wasn't based on the movies, I think it's a good book. It's got a good story. It's a good cyber, a cyberpunk kind of mystery type story. Let's see. Then there's Blade Runner Origins. Now, for some reason, Comixology, where I get these images from, has the cover of Blade Runner Origins as the Peach Momoko. That's not the actual cover. I don't know why they put that here, but this is like the B cover. But this is Blade Runner Origins, and this is the A cover for issue 2, which I do have as well. I haven't got a chance to read this one yet. Full disclaimer, I do like Blade Runner Origins more than 2029. I was only getting Origins to be a completist. I was like, unlike Skip, who was like, oh, I really want to know this. I was like, this feels kind of like cashing in, but I'm going to get it to be a completist. And I read the first issue and I was like, ooh, I like where this is going. You got my attention. This is very interesting. And I like that they also kept it in the very strong themes that Blade Runner is, which is kind of a detective noir story. So this main guy you see here on the cover is a police detective. And I think that's important. I think if you're going to sell someone a brand, that you keep true to your brand. Skip, what are you liking about Origins so far?
You kind of hit a lot of the nails on the head. As someone who really enjoyed, the original Blade Runner, and I do agree with you. Like, my heart doesn't agree with you about Blade Runner 2049 being better, but my brain absolutely does agree with you about Blade Runner 2049 being better than the original.
Uh-huh.
But they like, and the thing, how they like kept the continuity and the things that worked about the first movie into the second movie. I feel like they did the same thing with 2019, and they very much did the same thing with Blade Runner Origins. So it's nice seeing the setting and the backdrop and the foundation of it being there, but them having removed some of the things, like the technology is not quite what it is in the Blade Runner movie yet. Like, it's not all of it is there, and I like how they peeled a little bit of that back, which makes sense because, it being the origins not only of Blade Runners, but naturally of what Blade Runners run down, replicants. It peeling back some of the technology puts more of an emphasis on some of the humanity and some of those questions that get asked. What's the difference? Robot rights, all of those things, what is existence and all of that. So yeah, I like those beats being there were good. And there were some things in there that, were kind of bumps in the road, so to speak, of what would normally be a smooth ride. But if this was like an old, classic car, or like an old Cadillac, it's like, okay, maybe she doesn't start up great, and maybe you got to let her run for 5 minutes to get going. But once she got going, man, that thing was smooth and adventurous. So I've been really, really digging Origins.
Sweet. And you've read both issues so far?
Yes, 1 and 2.
Okay. I'm gonna have to probably see if I can finish issue 2 tonight. Because I just got it. And Nalo, are you gonna be picking up Origins?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty light on new comics, so Snow Angels and Blade Runner
Yeah,
maybe
dude, I
tonight.
can't wait to saw Snow Angels.
Probably not.
Snow
Gotta go
Angels,
sleep soon.
guys. Don't get yourself some Comixology Unlimited. That's all I gotta say. Like, it's for the price of one Batman comic. You can read unlimited comic. I like that I can say that now. It's the price of one Batman comic. That's pretty sad.
I also forgot to mention, everyone, that the Unnamed Indie Comic Show is actually sponsored by Comixology. We're proud to have Amazon pay for this show. And yeah, Ash has to mention them at least 26 times.
Well, you know,
Are-
they gave me a Ferrari, so gotta repay them somehow. Oh wait, was I supposed to say that?
Ash actually lives in like an Amazon house with like Comixology promoters. They all have different channels. There's like a TikToker, an Instagrammer. He's the YouTuber.
Here's the thing. I am influenced.
He's an influencer.
I'm
Paid.
Damn,
off.
damn you,
Paid
no.
off by the big boys.
I make zero money, 0 pennies off of this channel. So I absolutely have zero influence put on me from any sort of outside forces. I don't have to worry about advertisers. I don't have to worry about Marvel sending me free books or things like that. So what that means is, 100% of the time, if I shill something, it's because I actually feel this way. It's not because I'm getting some sort of kickback. I'm not trying to keep some freebies that I'm getting. So if I ever do get freebies, which is unlikely, I will be transparent with you and let you know. But I do believe in certain things, and I feel that word of mouth is the most effective thing. We get bombarded with corporate advertisements trying to, control what we think is cool and not cool. And I think word of mouth, you guys in the chat, talking to each other, talking to us talking with you, like everyone just together, sharing our enthusiasm, and then you making your own decisions going, that sounds like it could be for me, or I think I'll do something else. That's fine. But I don't know. I once upon a time had the Marvel Unlimited, the $9.99, and if you're wanting to binge a tons of Marvel comics, sure, it's worth it. You get a lot of Marvel comics you can binge. I had my fill of it, and I read pretty much all the comics I wanted to binge there, and so I canceled it. And then DC came out with their service, and I was like, I don't know, it's $7.99, it's cheaper. And then I was like, you know what? Let me try this Comixology Unlimited, because it has Marvel, DC, and it has independents. Now, the libraries of each one is lesser. Like for example, you won't have as many Marvel comics on Unlimited as you will actually at Marvel, but you will have DC comics, and you will have tons of independent comics, and you get the Marvel or the Comixology, exclusives, the originals, which are only available through Comixology. And you don't have to be a member. You can buy them. They're $2.99 an issue, which arguably, based on the market, is a fair price, I suppose. But for $5.99, reading all you want, and there's so much out there. So I hawk it all the time. If it's not your bag, it's not your bag. But I've gotten a lot of good value off it. So I like to share. I like to share and give other people the opportunity, at least, to partake.
Ash, if I can just say, I was just poking fun. I gotta say, you're one of the most sincere comics people I know out here promoting content, and I've had a little bit of backroom drama myself with some other content producers that got poisoned by the well of power, getting some previews and thinking that their content was, the client was now, these publishers sending them previews, and that it was sacrilegious to critique anything. And, that's not a very fun mindset to be in. So I believe you that, you have very honest opinions.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Speaking of honest opinions, Joe Corallo's never afraid to give his honest opinion. He says Blade Runner 2049 didn't impact cinema and pop culture almost at all, whereas Blade Runner was an absolute game changer. It inspired a generation of directors. That is, everything he said there is true. 100%.
Yep. True.
However, I still maintain that Denis Villeneuve, it's a really hard name to pronounce, made a better film than Ridley Scott. Although Ridley Scott made his film 30 years prior, approximately. And he also made it without any shoulders to stand on. So Ridley Scott is one of the all-time greats. But sometimes people come along and they stand on your shoulders and are able to improve on your work. It doesn't necessarily make them more influential or better or anything like that. But I just like the singular, the movie 2049 better. And I like them both.
Absolutely.
I mean, 2049 has actually enhanced Blade Runner for me. I actually like Blade Runner now more that they're both. So that I think that's a positive thing to say about the films too.
I agree. Fully agree with that.
Let's see. Nalos Blade Runner has Ryan Gosling in it. I don't know if that is a slight or what. Let's see.
Have you ever seen that skit, Ryan Gosling's Range? And it's like his acting range, but it's like a range for also like cows, and it's like 2 feet wide.
Oh no, I haven't.
It's like, this is my range. I have a very wide acting range. I'm Ryan Gosling on my range, and it's like a 2x4 range with like a cow in it.
Oh, you're gonna have to share that with me later. I gotta see that.
I gotta find it. It's an old one, actually.
Let's see. I had to look it up. What meant the other day? Skip. What a terrible name to want to be called. Is that what he's talking about? Schmo? I'm not sure what he's talking about.
No, Standing. Because you were talking about shilling, and Snatch Face the Fool had said it's not. It's only shilling if you're actually receiving something from receiving something from the party that you're promoting. He said, so maybe endorsing, and I said, yeah, I agree. It's actually more like standing.
Gotcha.
And then we began that combo.
Thank you for clearing that up. That makes a lot more sense now. I had to look it up with the other. Okay. You say his name wrong. His pronounced Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, we'll actually put a V at the end of that,
Yeah.
Jimmy, and Denis Villeneuve. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess even the V can kind of falls off. It's supposed to roll off. It's those fancy names. Everybody knows what he's talking about.
I pronounce it wrong. I'm just doing the best I can. I could barely even utter the words once upon a time. Like my mouth just would not form them. But I hear him say it, then I try to mimic him, and I'm like, I can't say that. Why is your name so hard to say? Anyways, I'll just call him Denny V.
There you go, Denny V.
Yeah, Denny V is one of the best filmmakers. I know it's not a filmmaking stream, but it's an independence. Blade Runner, it's tied into the Blade Runner, so I'm going to talk about him. One of the best filmmakers today, he's made movies before it, but starting with Sicario, then Arrival, then Blade Runner 2049, 3 home runs, and his next movie is Dune, and I'm crossing my fingers. Please, God, let it be that good. If it's Dune, because I am a huge, huge Dune lover, and I'm a big fan of Denny, so I can't wait. It's my absolute number. That Avatar 2 is right up, but it's for sure one of the top movies I'm anticipating at all going forward. Jimmy says he can't wait for Dune either. The French should never spell words. They should just have pronunciation guides. That's especially in the comics these days. You get these creators all from Europe, and I'm like, who is this guy? Like another name I'm gonna butcher, but Olivier Copiel or something. I can't pronounce his name. He's a creator. Like, I'm like, how do you say your name? Can we get a pronunciation guide? But
I feel like in order to say French names properly, you have to like take a taquito and then like blow all of the contents out and then put it in the middle of your mouth, and then you can pronounce French things.
Yeah.
You need something circular in there, or like a kazoo. like that's the only way to like properly pronounce French words.
I'm choking because I'm also reading the chat and what you said, and then also Joe at the same time, just sitting here listening to Ash get his hopes up. I know it's sad. And Jimmy says apparently Dune's not even the first full book, and I know I found that out, and part of me was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's gonna get the length of time it deserves, and then I was like, oh wait, COVID destroyed the movie franchise industry, so never gonna get a sequel because it's impossible for any movie to succeed anymore. So yeah, I really hope it's not half a movie and we never see the rest. That would be terrible, especially if it's amazing. Snatchface says David Lynch's Dune is better. Calling it right now. I really love David Lynch's Dune, but I'm Denny V is amazing. I mean, he made Blade Runner 2049 work. I didn't think that was possible. So, all right.
Shout out to I want to shout out Strange Brain Parts YouTube channel. Just put up a video on the Black and Call, and I watched it, and I had no idea that Dan O'Bannon and Moebius met doing work for the Dune movie, I guess. Like I guess Moebius was doing like storyboards and like character design.
Are you talking about Jodorowsky's Dune?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's Jodorowsky's Dune. That's right. Not David Lynch's Dune. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, the Dune that we
Thank
never
you for
got
the
to
correction.
see.
Yeah, it was Jodorowsky's Dune, which
that would have been a trip.
That would have been. Oh my god! It might be like I want to see it, but maybe it's better for my psyche that I did not see it.
There's a cool documentary on it if you're curious called Jodorowsky's Dune.
Oh, I'm very curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll see if I can find it for you.
Okay.
Let's see. Moving along though, we have. Whoops. Close that. There we go. I think this will be our final book for the evening that we'll be talking about as far as official. King of Nowhere, another W. Maxwell Prince. You'd think that he was the only guy writing independent comics these days, but King of Nowhere. It's a book. I read the first 3 issues of this because it's on Comixology Unlimited. See what I get to read now when I don't have to pay $3.99 an issue. And I like this. So I can actually speak on this book. Nalo, have you read this book?
Yeah, I picked up issue 1, but I think it came out when the pandemic was ongoing, so I wasn't really able to keep up with going to physical shops, and it was definitely the trippiest book I've read. I haven't read the whole series, but I didn't even make the connection. It's the same creator as Haha and Ice Cream Man. So I'm interested to hear more from y'all who read more.
All right. Well, Skip is the guy who got me to try this book. Skip, what do you have to say about King of Nowhere?
So you read more than I have. I only finished issue number 1, but I do agree, easily the most trippy work that I've read from Will Prince. And that says a lot too, by the way, because reading Ice Cream Man, every issue to issue, you get something. It's very interesting how there is a continuity to it, but it's not the continuity that we're used to. So it is a continuous thing and theme, but like it's like, I mean, I guess, okay, if you want a smoothie, like he keeps making smoothies. Like he's not going from like Coca-Cola, like a soft drink, to like carbonated drink, like alcoholic beverage. They're all smoothies, but you might, today's a strawberry banana, tomorrow might be that dreamsicle type one that we talked about. You might get more of like one that's a little bit closer to like plant-based the next issue. So there is a continuity to it, and what I like about it is you do get to see all the different facets. That's what I like about W. Maxwell Prince, is that he shows you a lot of different ways and angles and stuff that he can write from. So I wasn't surprised about how different the book was, but since he went the trippy route, I was pleased with how trippy it was. It is very trippy, very otherworldly. Um, a person trying to make sense of a world that he's been dropped into, and that it is very unlike any of the any world that we are familiar with, and just of course, animal like type people, folks with upside down faces, and when he gets dropped into it, he's talking about how, like, oh, why is it this, like, why can't I ever, when I wake up in these strange places, why can't they ever not be strange places? A warm bed with a blanket, and it's always got to be something like this. And the place, I forget the name of the actual city, because as he's walking into town, it says what the city is, but enough of the number, it's like the trope where, like, unless enough of the numbers have been erased or like faded out to where it says nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Um, Snatchface says, yeah, I have no idea what it's about, but it looked interesting. I've read 3 issues so far, and I still don't know what it's about. But I don't mean that as a slight. I know in some books you'd be like, what? I think this is purposely meant to be confusing. I think that's part of the book, the book is written like a dream. I think that it's hard to tell so far, but it feels like that's the theme, or at least one of the themes of the book is dreaming, and like what's real, what's dreams, what are dreams about. There's a possibility that maybe real life is the dream and the dream is the reality. I don't even know.
I get that.
There's drug use involved, so is this all just a trip? I don't know. But I think all these things are interjected into the story to keep you guessing, to keep you going, I don't know what's going on. And that's the way the story works. And that's why you can have things like he's got in the cover here, he's holding a balloon, which is a fish. And you ever notice, like, if you have a dream and things are really bizarre in your dream, but at the time you're dreaming it, they don't seem bizarre. Like you dream things and they're like, I don't know, something just like a fish balloon like this. Like but during the time it makes sense to you. But you're just like, whatever, that's just real. That's how it is. And then afterwards, when you wake up and you're like, what the hell? Like, and all of a sudden reality snaps back and you're like, why the hell would I be doing this? Like, for example, one time when I was a little kid, I had a dream, and I had a dream that I had to like go to the bathroom really bad. And, but I was pinching a penny. And if I pinched the penny, it would keep me from going to the bathroom. And in the dream, it just made sense. It's just like, but after I woke up, I was like, what kind of nonsense is this? I don't, it's silly. So this book is kind of like that, but Prince's writing is so, his scripting and his dialogue and narration is so solid that it keeps you, I don't want to say gripped, but it's very compelling. It keeps you wanting to read more. You want to naturally unravel and understand this reality, because it is very surreal and bizarre, but you are inclined to try to make sense of it. And the main character doesn't even make sense. He goes into the story, oh yeah, this is all a dream. I'm on LSD. I gotta wait till my trip goes, and I'll be fine. And then things don't go the way he expects, and then he starts second guessing. Wait a second, am I dreaming? And there's more to it, which we won't spoil. But I really like that. I really like it's not that it's necessarily a mystery, although there is a little mystery in the book, but it's a narrative mystery in that you just want to see what's going on. And the situations that occur, you can see here on this cover, this fish guy becomes like his friend. And again, just normal. In the world of nowhere, all this weirdness is just normal. Or I should say it's just accepted at face value. Hey, look, there's a guy with an upside down face. everyone recognizes that it's an upside down face. It's not like people look at him and go, what are you talking about? His face is normal. They don't. They go, oh yeah, upside down face. Moving on. Like, you're just like, oh, okay. Snatch, or sorry, not Snatch. Nalo. Have you read any of these issues?
Like I said, I think I read the first one when it came out about a year ago, and
Oh, that's right.
I remember it was trippy. I gotta revisit it now that Skip and you have reminded me that Mr. Prince does more than just clowns.
Marani says, wait, is King of Nowhere the Seinfeld of comic books? No. Seinfeld was an experiment of making a show about nothing. This is not a comic book about nothing. There's definitely something going on. As in this cover actually introduces you to this image here, which seems important and alludes to a bigger part of the picture you have yet to see. And I'm very interested to get to the 4th issue because of this. But there is something going on. There are things happening. You're just not sure why or what significance they have, what's the meaning of things. But at the same time, I feel like this is one of the most artistic books I've read in a long time. Because while I'm not understanding the straightforward nature of a plot, there's a lot to say about humanity, about reality. I just, it's difficult to put in, for me to put into words, but I feel like it's not like this is a deep book. I just feel like it's a very meaningful book. I feel like it's very expressive. And I feel like when you read it, you can enjoy the story that's going on, but at the same time, I think it will quite possibly speak to you on different levels. Would either of you guys say that you guys maybe had a similar experience?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely speak from the issue that I've read of this, and also reading Prince's other stuff. Compelling is the right word. He is a very compelling writer. He is very good at just like grabbing a hold of you and keeping you, and you don't even always know how you got seduced into the clutches of his writing, but you end up there. And I can speak for myself. I don't ever mind being there. As he's got a hold of me, he isn't just like, okay, I've got you now, I can chill. Like, he's like, no, I've got you, and I'm still holding on just as tight. Maybe I'll grip it even tighter. So he does the things to entertain you, rile up your senses and all of these things while he has you. It's interesting. Like, as much as I feel like, he like things may be heartfelt or this or that, he finds a way to get in. I just don't know. I won't always. There may be a reason. I won't always say that the reason behind or the moral behind the story or whatever is super deep. But at the same time, I would say that it has significance, and it's well thought out significance. Whereas maybe so many people kind of always hit, maybe they take different avenues to hit the same 3 notes. Prince is like, the keyboard has 88 keys. I don't have to always hit the same note. Maybe I play in the same key, but I don't always have to only hit the same 3 notes. So he does a very good job of, for any people that are like, musicians out there, where, he's very modal, and he very much likes to play the blue notes. He's very jazz, whereas majority of what we may experience may be more classical or pop or maybe even blues, definitely rock. He's very jazz, but within that jazziness that he has, if you follow along, if you take the ride, he'll make it worth your while.
Yeah, bringing up music is a good thing, I think. because I was thinking about this book as something similar, but more on the lyrical side of music. What I found in this particular book especially was, you know, that experience you get sometimes you listen to a song and you hear the lyrics of the song, and those lyrics just somehow they speak to you on some level. And those lyrics may not actually be about what it's speaking to you as, right? It might just be a couple of lines in the song or something, and your brain translates those lines in a way that speaks to you, but then you find out, oh wait, the song's about Vietnam or something. It's like a completely different subject, and you're like, oh, I thought it was about growing up childhood, or, you know, like, I don't know if I'm putting this correctly, but it's almost like this book has a similar effect. I don't necessarily know what this book's about, but I know that my brain is pulling things out of it that may or may not have been the author's intent, but yet still feels meaningful to me. Like I'm reading into it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I've heard lots of authors actually talk about the beauty of that in writing, is that every person who reads what you write takes away something different. And a good writer, which obviously Maxwell Prince seems to be, can really elicit that. And I don't get that out of many comic books whatsoever. I do sometimes out of literature. I think that's the point of good literature. But comic books, that's a rarity. Comic books, I'm usually there just for a ride, right? I'm just there to like, oh, give me a cool plot. I want to know where these characters go. I want to have fun on this journey. And that's it. It's a simplicity type of thing. I'm not necessarily looking for a work of art, you know, existentialism or anything. And I don't want to sound too pretentious or weird here, because I think the book is just generally enjoyable to read. But that's what I'm walking away with. And I hope people get a chance to check this out, because I've been a little bit slow to jump on the Maxwell Prince bandwagon. I still haven't really read Ice Cream Man. Haha was interesting. Like, I think the guy's definitely got some talent. Whether or not it's the talent that I want to explore more is still up in the air. But this book is the most interesting thing I've seen of him, for my taste of what I've seen so far.
For sure.
Snatchface says, peeing your pants is cool, then consider me king of nowhere. Oh my goodness. All right, Knowledge, you fall asleep back there? I know I talk a lot.
Not yet, but I gotta jump off in 5 minutes or so.
All right, well, that sounds like a good time to start wrapping things up. Before we go, one final thing. Let's see. Just thought it'd be a good thing to mention for all you guys, you know, because I'm here to stand things, apparently. I like people finding good deals and being able to take advantage of things, because, you know, one of the things I hate is when there is a really cool deal. Like, for example, when Jonathan Hickman's entire work was up on Humble Bundle and I didn't know about it. Well, actually, I did know about it, but I already had bought it. Anyways, when this really cool thing happens and you're like, oh, wait, I could have had that. Oh, but I didn't know, and you knew about it and you didn't tell me. Like, darn it. So there's a deal going on right now. One of my favorite sites is Humble Bundle, where you can help out a favorite charity while you get good deals. And they have a best year of Boom Studios. We've talked about this before, that I think Boom Studios is one of the top indie publishers on the market as far as just trajectory and things that they're doing. I think that they're very much on a forward trajectory, doing some things really well. I wouldn't assert that they're perfect, but they have a Humble Bundle right now. And if you're not familiar with Humble Bundle, it's usually for computer stuff, software and the like, but they do often do books. And the way that it works is kind of a pay what you want scenario. It's a charity. It's actually multiple charities. You can actually pick your charity if you want. You can donate as much money as you see fit to donate. As an incentive, they will give you kickbacks based on how much you donate. These kickbacks are donated presumably by various people, like in this case, Boom Studios, to help raise money for charity. So if you meet certain thresholds, you get certain kickbacks. So for a minimum donation of $1 to your favorite charity, you will get Last Witch #1, Origins #1, Seven Secrets #1. We only find them when they're dead #1, Wind #1, and the All Unkindness of Ravens, or An Unkindness of Ravens. So it's a few comics for $1. It's a pretty good deal. If you donate $10 or more dollars, you'll also get Last Witch 2 and 3, Ghost in LA #1, Strange Skies Over East Berlin, which I've heard good things about, Heartbeat, Quotable Giant Days, Big Black, Stand at Attica, Eat and Love Yourself, Fence Rivals. And if you donate 18 or more, you'll get all these books. I'm not going to mention every single one. You guys can see them on screen. But some of the standouts for me, Red Mother, Volume 1, so the entire first trade. I haven't read it myself, but I know lots of people have been talking about, people saying this is the best book of the year. Last year, I guess. Did it come out? Yeah, 2020. Once and Future, Volume 1. People loving this book, Kyron Gillen, Dan Mora art. Something is Killing the Children by James Tynan. This is also very popular. A lot of people very impressed with Something Killing the Children. So you get all of these as the trades as part of that tier level. If you go up another tier level at $25 or more of donation, you get all the previous stuff, plus you get Red Mother Volume 2. We only find them when they're dead, issues 2 and 3, which is a good series. I'm hoping Skip will get to read more of the issues on that. I actually, not normally an Al Ewing fan, but I'm enjoying it. I want to see more. You get Something Killing the Children Volume 2, Once and Future 2. You get the Irredeemable Omnibus. So if you are a Mark Waid fan and you want the entire series of Irredeemable, boom, there it is. Pun intended. See, I made a pun, Skip.
Pretty good. You're a punny guy.
I'm getting there. And look, King of Nowhere is included. It's a book we just talked about. And also Folklords, which I don't know too much about, but I know it's Matt Kint. So
that's actually the first Matt Kint book I read, and it's quite meta.
So there you
go. Folksy. But also on that note, thank you again, Ash, for inviting me to this hangout. But I do have to humbly bumble out.
Oh, well, I was in the middle of closing. Can you hang out for a minute?
I can.
All right. This is my closing thing. So I just want to say, guys, if donating to charity is your thing, including reading comics, and any of these sound like good comics to you, there you go. You're now aware. Go to humblebundle.com and donate to a good cause. Get you some good comics. We're going to close up the shop or the discussion here tonight. Thank you all for joining us, participating in the chat. I hope to see you again on the next one. We love to see the chat participation because it gives us more interaction. We bring these topics out so that we can speak on them in case, to have airspace filled, but we want to involve you guys as much as possible too. Nalo's got to go. So Nalo, I'm going to give you first crack. Any final statements you want to get, upcoming books that you're looking forward to tell people to pick up at their shop?
Pick up DECORUM, and I recommend Department of Truth. That's coming out this week. And CSRO's actually as well.
Very good.
W, one of their originals.
Sweet. And Mr. Skip and Tosh, my pal, my illustrious co-host, what's on the horizons for you?
More Ice Cream Man until the cows are milked dry. Still gonna shout out Cyberpunk comic that had come out only 4 issues, but I was really impressed by it. It definitely landed on people better than the game did. And outside of that, No, buy some dope back issues. I'm still grabbing tons of Howard Chaykin stuff from back in the day. So enjoying that. Grabbing old magazines. Just grabbed Star Breach mag, my first one. So enjoying that. But other than that, yeah, jump on that Comixology so we can get our Amazon overlords paid. This Ferrari don't run on hopes and dreams, you know.
Nice. Um, I'm gonna say, I did videos on these two books, and I was very pleasantly surprised, and they made it to my pull list. Berserker and we know the Matt Kent Keanu Reeves collaboration. Everyone's heard about it, I'm sure by now. I actually really enjoyed the first issue. I made a video on it. You can go check out what I had to say. And then the other one is Noctera, the Scott Snyder and Tony S. Daniel collaboration. That's also kind of very horrific, kind of not about vampires, but a similar feel of like vampires. I very much enjoyed both those books. Looking forward, so I'm looking forward to issues number 2 of those. They accelerated way up to the top. So I just want to shout out those books, and that's it. Our next episode of the Indie Comic Show will be a normal episode again, and we'll be featuring Decorum plus the next volume of East of West. So it will be a double Hickman issue or episode. 2 great books. East of West is absolutely just mind-blowing, phenomenal. Pick up those books, read them. You're missing out on some of the best comics that I've read in a long time, and you can get them on in trades. So and we talk about them. So stay tuned for that. And that's it. So thank you all for watching. Hope to see you again on the next stream. Thank you, Nalo, for joining us. I know it's East Coast time for you is rough, so I appreciate you pushing your time schedule. And take care, everyone.